I was very close to make a first impression video on Disenchantment, but then I remembered, wait, I'm not the only YouTuber on the fucking platform and everyone's probably gonna share their own opinion on the series. And then I started to actually listen to everyone and I quickly noticed that every critic shares the same views I have. I'm sorry if you wanted to hear me shit on Disenchantment for some reason, though you could just instead watch Cosmo's video that pretty much reflect how I feel but with minor disagreements. For instance, I don't have a problem with them not being consistent with their edge because I'm fine with any series distributing their tone in whatever way they want. I just have one thing to say. Matt, you are tragically out of touch. I'm going to assume you don't pay much attention to the library of comedy shows that came after The Simpsons, which a lot of them received massive influence from your style of humor. But even if we could ignore that, just watching The Simpsons and Futurama alone is already enough to be familiar with your formula, to the point where the lines that possess the conventional breaking humor we've all grown to love are more predictable than the simple layered jokes that probably took less time to construct. Also, in terms of the premise, I cringe whenever I picture Matt groaning and the writing staff probably sucking each other's dicks and thinking they're really clever for subverting classic fantasy tropes while also commenting on traditionalist values, as if Shrek hasn't done that already and popularized it to the point where even Disney movies shit on the trend they themselves started. Look, Matt, I likes you and I respect you for what you've done for American media and culture as a whole, but you're old, man. You gotta try a little bit harder to keep up with what's going on so that you can have more impactful ideas and not waste any of our times. I'm sorry. I can't do this. Trust me, guys. I've tried watching this 3 times, and with each case, I couldn't move past the first 5 minutes of the first episode. It just seems like a surreal, episodic, and wacky cartoon that doesn't really click with me, featuring bland main characters, unfunny absurdist humor, not so gripping art direction, and half-baked stories. I could be wrong, maybe it's surprisingly funny and entertaining, but the warning signs are too strong and familiar that I think I'm gonna give this one a skip. You might be thinking, aren't you being too unfair? Shouldn't you at least finish the damn episode before you can even begin to settle on your thoughts on Cupcake and Dino? Well, I wouldn't say I'm settling on any opinion. It's more that I'm refusing to give this series a look because I don't want to risk dealing with lack of entertainment and meaningful discussion, which would be another waste of my time. I do that constantly, by the way. You think I mysteriously forgot to talk about shit like Kid Danger and Mega Man? The only thing different about Cupcake and Dino is that I'm telling you that I'm dodging this potential bullet since, you know, that's kind of the point of this video series. I peek at whatever Netflix is providing and see what either wows me or strikes a nerve or, you know, fails to even give me confidence to finish the first episode. But hey, I want to be fair. If you can leave in the comment section a well put together explanation for why this series is exceptional, well, now that I think about it, I probably still wouldn't watch it.
What's that white powder all over your snout?
Well, how am I supposed to sniff out cocaine if I don't know what it smells like?
Good point. Moving on!
This is the last somewhat below average Netflix cartoon I'm gonna talk about before I move on to stuff that likely has more good shit to offer. Though I'm not gonna lie, Paradise PD was not as unbearable as I thought it would be. I figured this would be another tacky, raunchy cartoon that tries too hard to be edgy to the point where it's obnoxiously unwatchable. But while this is pretty try-hard, the first episode was not even remotely painful to sit through. I wasn't repulsed, the characters seemed alright for the established setting. It was a passable episode, but unfortunately, there was nothing emotionally gripping or resonant that I could take from it, and the humor was mostly ineffective, which is why I dropped it after the first viewing. Also, this show is ridiculously similar to Brickleberry to the point where I'm willing to believe Wacko and Roger Black's favorite manga artist is Hiro fucking Mashima. Okay, I know I kind of hinted that I wasn't going to be negative anymore, and for what it's worth, I kind of like Dragon Prince. Or at least, I would say the events I've seen so far got my attention to the point where I'm willing to carry on with the series, which is a better outcome than most of my 2018 Netflix entries. But I have a huge gripe, specifically with the animation. Look, I don't want to be seen as the guy who has a vendetta against CGI given how I often complain about its usage in animated series. But in my defense, a lot of the time it's their fault. You know what I never complain about? CGI animated movies, aside from the oversaturation, shows like Back in Business and Troll Hunters that go full in with their CGI instead of this uncomfortable mix of both. Like, I don't get it, man. I don't understand how anyone can buy into this illusion. There are times when I watch a 2D cartoon and there's a background object that's subject to animation, and you can tell the difference in the texture, which inevitably leads to distraction. You think that won't happen here too? You really think that if you add 2D painted backgrounds plus CGI character models and background objects to enrich them, I won't immediately notice how one looks more distinctively vivid and have minor design details associated with something that's typically followed by three-dimensional movement? Speaking of which, I can't tolerate the stiff animation. I have no idea how someone would be able to watch this and not feel awkward. Cynicism aside, months ago I watched Hoseki no Kyuni or Land of the Lustrous, and oddly enough, it shares some of the issues I brought up here, though to a somewhat lesser extent. But if you guys followed my Twitter around, I don't remember, you'll probably recall seeing me praise the animation, which can then be followed by someone calling me a hypocrite. Although, I like the animation in Hoseki no Kyuni in spite of these flaws, not because. Whenever there was some action, it fucking blew my mind with how dynamic it was in ways where I don't believe it would have been as easily effective if it were animated in 2D. Emphasis on easy, not impossible. With Dragon Prince, I have no reason to believe it couldn't be animated in 2D thus far. Here it's just There's nothing really fantastic about the designs and the fight scenes, and I can't think of anything I've seen that would justify it being in 3D. It's okay, I guess, though moments of dialogue are much worse animated. Honestly, after watching the first episode of Hoseki no Kyuni, I just got used to those few moments when it would get awkwardly choppy, while with Dragon Prince, I'm 2 episodes in and I still can't tolerate it. In fact, revisiting some of its clips, I noticed some subtle addition of detail in the movement of stuff like the hair and natural mannerisms. Here, I feel like I'm forced to tolerate too much and not get rewarded enough. But like I said before, I only saw the first 2 episodes, so there's room for improvement, or at least I wanna believe that. Though in terms of the story, there's some history and grudge between civilizations that piqued my interest. I like some of the conflicts established between several characters. There was a little moment of bromance that was kind of cool. The series also seems to tell a serious story. So I'm hooked. I'm willing to see whatever these guys have to offer. I'm just not fond of the animation so far.